Hey folks, how's it going? Whoa! Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of Student Loan Justice livestream.org. How are you tonight? My name is Alan Collins. I'm founder of studentloanjustice.org. There's a lot going on right now in the student loan world, folks. So here's the big picture. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only citizens group fighting for student loan justice. For the first 15 years, 15 years of our existence, we were fighting very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections. Well, we've upped our game, folks. We are now calling on the president to cancel all federally held student loans. That's like 90% of all student loans by executive order. It turns out that the president has complete authority to cancel any and all federally held student loans. And this has got to happen, folks. We are now in the middle of what's looking like a very deep recession. And make no mistake, before this whole coronavirus thing started happening, it was already a badly failed lending system. We can say with confidence that 80% of all current borrowers, this is before the crisis, were unable to make a dent in their student loans. They would pay and pay and pay, and their balance would go up, or they're in default, or forbearance, or deferment, or otherwise delinquent. So this coronavirus crisis, quite frankly, it is a good opportunity for the president, whether it be Trump or anybody else, to push the reset button on this failed lending system. You know, we can now say that 2004 students who were only borrowing about $10,000, $11,000, their default rate is 40%. Now, the average undergraduate coming out of college today, they're leaving with like $41,000 in debt on average. And the economy, even before this crisis, was not great. Wages had basically stagnated since 2004. So if the default rate for those 2004 students was 40%, what do you think it is for more recent students? 50%? Yeah. 60%? Yeah. 70%? Yeah, probably. 80%? Could be. Failed lending system. And as I said, we've been at this for 15 years now. Our research and our members have been featured on 60 Minutes, in the New York Times, on Fox News, in Rolling Stone magazine, and Vice News, and pretty much you name the show, and we've probably interviewed with them at one point or another. And we've broken many of the largest stories in higher education. We were the people who, for example, broke the story about when student loan debt exceeded credit card debt back in 2010, I think it was. We've blown the lid off many scandals, and too long, but yet still very successful history of doing very solid research on this topic. So, folks, I want to leave it open for questions and comments tonight. I see Kyle and Sean and John and Ryan are here. So if you have any comments, please shoot them out. What I will tell you that's probably the most important thing I will say tonight is that we currently have a petition on change.org, and hopefully you've seen it. Hopefully you've signed it. The link to it is either above or to your left. We need to rock this petition, folks, as quickly as we possibly can. Are rolling out bailout bill after bailout bill. They've given $5 trillion to Wall Street and small businesses, and a couple little chump change for the citizens in the form of stimulus checks. They're re-upping the small business lending fund as we speak. All this stuff is going to increase our national debt from, it was already an astonishing $23 trillion. It'll be $28 trillion by the time all the stuff that they've already announced goes through. And they are still looking for ways to stimulate this economy. We've never had a complete and total shutdown on our economy like what we have here today. And so I think they're making it up as they go along. But certainly they are going to need more stimulus. And folks, I am here to tell you that the lowest hanging fruit on the economic fiscal stimulus tree for the government truly is canceling all federal student loans. It's easy to do. The president can do it without Congress. He can do it by executive order. It doesn't need to be paid for because these loans were already paid for many years ago. assuming that is kind of the low side of what they've been profiting over the years, as remember, the overall student debt has grown by almost double since 2012. It's a pretty fair bet that they've been profiting 50, 60, 70 billion dollars in each of the past 10 years. So, of the entire federal student loan, by the way, if you guys have any questions or comments, just feel free to throw them out. I'm happy to respond in situ. It's a little more fun that way. But of the 1.5 or so trillion outstanding dollars in federally held student loans, like probably a trillion is interest. Now, nobody knows what the true ratio is of original principal to interest. Nobody, not even a longtime Department of Education PhD analyst. He doesn't know either. But I think it's a very fair assumption to say that it's way less than half is principal. In other words, more than half is interest. So the president could cancel all these loans tomorrow by executive order to the national debt. And the taxpayers, they're probably breaking even on the deal over the long haul from end to end. So there is no cheaper way to stimulate the economy. Now, we can argue about what the stimulus would be. We know that $100 billion a year in interest is clicking off on our backs every year. So that certainly would be a good place to start as far as where the ballpark of the fiscal stimulus that would result. So that's $100 billion a year over 10 years. But really, folks, it's a lot higher than that because it's not just the savings and interest payments that would go back into the economy. Most, in fact, I'd say all student loan borrowers, they would immediately overnight be able to go out and borrow quite a lot of money where they couldn't before because of their student loans. So the increased borrowing capacity, which I'm pretty sure it's not very controversial to say that most people would use. You know, maybe they would buy a house, maybe they would start a business, maybe they would start a family. But suffice it to say, they would probably spend a lot of that borrowing capacity. So they would borrow. So, you know, how much would that be? Well, it would probably be about $1 trillion in increased borrowing capacity open up to them in a very short amount of time. So how they actually spend? I think they'd probably maybe spend $500 billion in the next, like, I'm going to say 2 or 3 years. I think that's pretty reasonable to expect. So while the other analysts, or while the sort of formal analyses that we have seen estimating the cost or the financial benefit of the fiscal stimulus of canceling all student loans tends to be maybe $108 billion a year, and that's from the Levi Institute / Sanders Institute, as in Bernie Sanders. But I'm telling you, those estimates are low by half. We could see GDP easily increase by, I'm going to say, $200+ billion a year as a result of canceling most student loans. So, folks, I'm not sure what more I can say here. It's just amazing how good this idea is, and quite frankly, how terrible all of the loan cancellation plans that we're seeing run up the flagpole these days in Washington are. And we're a nonpartisan group. But, the Democrats, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, just inked a student loan cancellation proposal that, I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. Number one, it will never pass. Number two, it will never work. Their plan, I really don't even want to talk about it that much, but the plan calls for up to $30,000 loan cancellation, and that's sort of, it requires congressional approval. It will require congressional funding, and that's what they proposed. So whatever ends up churning and spewing out the other side of the congressional sausage-making machine, it won't be nearly that good because the Republicans will rip it to shreds. So but let's assume that something, the best thing you could possibly think of, makes it through the other side of Congress, and Congress actually produces legislation that reads, let's say, exactly like the Omar Presley bill it looks like going in. So best case scenario. Well, then we have to rely on the education to administer this cancellation program. So what do we know about the Department of Education and how they run cancellation programs? Well, they were supposed to forgive hundreds of thousands of students' loans who went to colleges, for-profit colleges, who lied to them. The last time I checked, exactly two people out of, I think, like 244,000 borrowers had actually gotten their loans canceled. But here's another example. Last year, it was the first full year of loan cancellation for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Again, it was about 44, maybe a few more, thousand student loan borrowers who had worked at a nonprofit for 10 years, thought they were doing everything right, went to the Department of Education and said, okay, so cancel my loans, right? Yeah, no. You know how many people out of those 44,000 people who thought they were getting the forgiveness actually got their loans discharged, canceled? Like 125 or something. Like less than 1%. So the moral of this story, folks, is that the Department of Education has no desire or intentions of canceling any loans. And believe me, they are very good at slow walking, baffling, bamboozling their way through any sort of legislation that Congress passes that they have to follow that they don't like. We saw them completely shred the gainful employment rule, shred it. And as I said, the defense to repayment law that was put in quite a few years ago, actually, they found a way to not forgive even two people's loans. And, it just ain't going to happen. If the Department of Education does not want to do something that Congress tells it to do, it simply won't do it. That's how strong they are. That's how strong the student loan swamp is. So if you think that this clunky up to $30,000, by the way, $30,000 is not impressive at all, particularly for some of our older members who've seen, a $25,000 loan blow up into a $200 and something thousand nightmare. Taking $30,000 off of that just is not impressive at all. So there is one good thing that I can say about this Ayanna Pressley bill, Ilhan Omar bill. Hey, Michael. In the bill, they do call for the repeal of 11 U.S. Code 523A8. So that's the repeal of the one line of federal code that does make all student loans treated exactly the same way in bankruptcy court as all other loans. But I think it's too late to return bankruptcy protections for student loans. We fought very hard and very ethically, and it was a difficult fight for 15 years. Only now can I happily report to you that we actually have a couple of very good bills. We have a bill S1414 in the Senate, HR 2648 in the House. And this would delete that one line of code I just said and would return standard uniform bankruptcy protections to all student loans. We've got a Republican co-sponsor on it in the House. We've got like 22 senators on it on the Senate bill in the Senate. And we will continue to push for these bills. Make no mistake about it. In fact, as we speak, we are pushing these bills. But folks, I'm telling you, I think it's too late to return bankruptcy protections. I think if bankruptcy rights were restored tomorrow, I think like 15 million people would flock to bankruptcy court. Because this lending system has exploded in our faces. It is over the cliff. It's done. It's toast. Put a fork in it. This lending system is done. And any opportunity that the president has to save a little face maybe and blame it on the coronavirus, fine. But get rid of this lending system, because we do not have to take this shit. And I'm telling you that if even 10 or 12% people with student loans actually resume making payments on their loans in 6 months, I think that will be very surprising. I don't think it's going to happen. I think this lending system is toast. I think it's to take it to the bathroom and drown it in the tub, in the famous words of Grover Norquist. And that's a very conservative thing that I just said, by the way. So conservatives everywhere should be on our side. I will do that for sure. Hey, one thing, I mentioned it a few nights ago, but I'd like to bring it up again. And I sent an email out to everybody. I posted it on the Facebook group. This is prime time to get this stuff done, folks. Right now, we would love to make a video. It doesn't have to be super sleek, professional, but it has to be heartfelt and it has to be good. And it has to come from you, the people who can give this problem, a face and a name. And really, if you want to wear sunglasses, that's okay with me. That might even be a little more powerful, but I don't know. The point is, we would love for you to make a short video, like 30 or 45 seconds, that just covers the basic points about how this lending system has hurt you. And the one thing that I would love to have bind all these videos together is that just at some point in the video, if you could just say, cancel these loans. Just 3 words. Cancel these loans. Cancel this debt. And then we'll do like a quick, like a bunch of people in a row going, cancel, cancel, cancel. Like that type of thing. Hopefully I described that pretty well. So if you could do that, maybe throw it on like a private YouTube channel or something, and like share the link with it to us. And Michael Jacobs is here on this conversation right now. I'm a terrible editor, so I think that job may end up going to Michael, but we're still figuring it out. But what we do know now for sure is that we need your video, and it's got to be, as honest as you can be, as heartfelt as you can be. If you want to lose your mind, you lose your mind. That's great. I mean, that's fine. You want to burn your student loan paper, you want to nail your student loan papers to a tree and come at it with an AR-15, that would be fine with me. I don't know how Michael would feel about that. But anyways, the point is, we would like to make a video that will hopefully go viral. And the point of the video is to cancel the loans. And we want to capture all of the pain and harm, suffering, heartbreak, tragedy, horror of these loans through your stories. So, and I know, I feel like I've been talking on this video for about 6 minutes, but I've actually been talking probably for like 20 minutes at this point. So I know it's hard to keep it short. It really is, for me, for you, for everybody. When you start talking about it, you just. But if you could just keep it to like less than 1 minute, that would be super helpful. So make sure you kind of plan it out. Maybe even script it. I don't know. But do that. And like I said, if you want to wear a Lone Ranger mask or sunglasses or whatever, you can do that. We just want the story. So if you could do that, please do it. And you can PM me, or if you look down in the comments, you can see Michael Jacobs just listed his email address, mjacobs74@yahoo.com. But yeah, dudes, let's do this. We could really do something nice with this. And we could throw it, we could give it to Ellen DeGeneres, we could give it to the Oprah Show, we could give it to, I don't know, Nancy Grace, Tucker Carlson, who knows. We can do a lot with that video. Maybe at some point the Today Show will like ask everybody that was in the video to come and do a group interview, or I don't know, you never know. You never know how this thing might play. But I do know that the media is quite hungry right now to understand the pain of the people out there with student loans. And believe me, folks, this is God's work that we're doing, guys. Well, it certainly is the founders' work. Hopefully God's work as well. But truly, folks, the founders themselves, John Adams said there's 2 ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword. The other is by debt. The founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution, not the Bill of Rights. The Constitution itself. And if you look at the list of congressional powers, like the power to raise an army, the power to build a navy, the power to declare a war, the power to create a judiciary, all these very important powers that were given to Congress. Above all those items that I just said is the call for uniform bankruptcy laws. That's how important the Founding Fathers felt the bankruptcy protections were for us and that we had to have them. So the Founding Fathers are on our side. They're probably looking down and going, what happened? How did our citizens get so weak? If that was me back in 1776, if I came back to life, we would have had tarred and feathered those people and thrown them in Boston Harbor years ago. I mean, truly, folks. They say might is right. Well, right is might. And we are maybe not mighty at this point, but we are right. And we've got a massive muscle to flex. There's 55 million people in the country with student loans, 80, or co-signing on them. 80% of those people will never be able to pay off their loans. They're losing sleep over their loans. It's a failed lending system, and we are the only group, I think, in existence right now that is actually calling the truth on this failed lending system. We've got the right idea, the idea that will actually work. So I'm not bragging or anything. Believe me, if there was another group out there fighting for what we are fighting for, I would gladly close up shop and just join their group and donate regularly or whatever. But there just isn't. It's just us, folks. It's just us. But we are potentially 55 million people strong. That is super strong. 55 million people, and then throw in a couple of wives and husbands and brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters who also feel the rage. We're talking 70 million people should be on our side. Well, the last presidential election, the winner received like 63 million votes. So that's how strong we are, people. But we've got to flex the muscle. If we don't flex it, it ain't going to happen. And a key part of flexing that muscle is, with this video. Because as you can tell, I'm not really the most photogenic spokesman for this cause. And, I have my days, but, we really need to up our game and do something slick and professional and hard-hitting and powerful. Now, we're making a documentary, but who knows when that's going to get done. We can make this video right now for these times we find ourselves in right now. We could have this thing done in a week, but it starts with you. You've got to make some kind of a video, if you're willing, of course, and I hope that you are. It's not the time to run and hide and wait and watch and worry and hope that somebody else will pull your weight for you. This is the time for you to step up, own this problem, and this is your problem. These are your loans, your future at stake, and actually do some of the, it's not even hard work, but just do some of the work that's necessary. And getting your videos to us, to Michael probably would be best, is exactly the best way to do that. And again, I'm going to give you his email address again. I think it changed, but it's mjacobs74@yahoo.com. So come on, dudes. It's not that hard. And I'm sure there's a lot out there that are way better looking than me. So I kid you not. So let's do this. This is your chance to literally change American, if not world history, certainly American history. This is a critical inflection point that we find ourselves at. This is the time when you have to decide, am I actually ever going to actually fight for myself, for the Constitution, and for the tens or even hundreds of millions of kids that are going to follow in our footsteps? Am I going to seize this opportunity, or am I just going to put my head back in the sand and hope that this problem just magically goes away? I hope that you choose the first thing, because believe me, folks, and I will end it with this, but in the immortal words of Benjamin Franklin, we've got to hang together, lest we hang separately. So think about that for a minute. Hopefully you've got that punchline. And the very last thing I'll say, folks, is if you can make a donation at this time, it would be very helpful. We've got a new, very large mailing list that our mailing service charges us by how big our mailing list is, and we went from like 4,000 people to like 30 something thousand people because our petition is doing so well, which is a really good problem to have. But we survive and thrive on very meager donations from people like you. That is the only place we take money. We don't do deals with bad guys. We don't have any side hustles going on. We don't sell our members out. We don't sell our member lists. We don't make money. The only income that we have literally is from personal donations, gifts from you. So if you could go to the website and show some love, that would be super appreciated at this time. Should have mentioned it at the first instead of the end, but okay, I'll leave it there at that. Get those videos made, get them to Mike, and I'll be back on Friday. Ed McKinley will be here tomorrow night. Peace.